Hi everyone. Hope you're all having a great day today. Here we are. It's almost time for Thanksgiving. It's hard to believe. This year has gone by so fast. And I am in a little better mood today than yesterday. As you can tell by my video, I was not a happy camper, but it's better today. And, life is life, but we actually have a couple little feral gremlins that are here to stay the night with us tonight, and so we ought to have a fun time. But tomorrow is the big turkey day. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving, and although our family isn't actually celebrating till this weekend because of work schedules, many of y'all will be having a big dinner tomorrow, I'm sure. And I was wondering if y'all had seen, I saw it on another YouTuber's channel, and then I also started seeing it popping up on Facebook, where I think it was the CEO of Campbell's, Campbell's Soup, was saying about, how, it's for poor people, and from what I understand, he was being filmed without, or recorded without knowing he was being recorded. And one of the things that it came out in the discussion was about soup cans having bioengineered food products in them. And then, of course, then that blew up, and a lot of people now are, talking about the different foods, I guess. I saw something, and now I don't know for sure how accurate these are, as far as like banquet pot pies I've seen on Facebook is accused of this. I haven't seen a label for those, and I'm not even sure what is pioneered or bioengineered food. Is that like 3D printed food? Because I've heard people talk about that, and I thought, okay, yeah, maybe that's possible, but you worry about people getting wrong information out there. And I don't know, but now that it's coming out more and more, and the news channels are covering it, and they don't like to cover anything that's legitimately news. So, but the I knew I had bought some Campbell's chicken noodle soup. Got it right here. And a YouTuber that I had seen had bought or had chicken cream, or cream of chicken by the Campbell's, or no, it might not have been Campbell's, it was another brand, but it was cream of chicken, and he had heard about it and looked, and sure enough, his had bioengineered food stuff in it. So he said he likes to use that instead of cream of mushroom in his green bean casserole for Thanksgiving. He said that one in the garbage. He said you really have to read your labels. Well, the chicken noodle soup, which I'll see if I can figure out how to put a picture up here with this, does have where it says bioengineered food is one of the ingredients. So I'm like, oh, now I've already consumed, I think this might be the last can of the 4-pack. And so the chicken noodle soup, it's in there. I was really disappointed because this is one of my favorites. And I use this like in meatloaf, or like if I want a mushroom burger at home. But the Campbell's Golden Mushroom Soup also has it in there. So I don't know, because there's no meat, I don't believe. It's just mushroom. It's like a mushroom gravy in here. But it also says that on here. So I was kind of bummed out about that. Now I did look because I have some from just Aldi's, whatever the brand is that they carry, chicken noodle soup in like the bigger can. I guess it would be kind of like the chunky equation. And that doesn't list any kind. Now, whether it has it in there or not, who knows? But it is not listed in there. But I was disappointed, and so was my husband. The hearty steak and potato has bioengineered food listed in here. So does that mean it's not real steak? It's pretend meat? You know, I remember when the Whoppers came out with the, which I know Burger King's, I believe they still have it, what is the fake, I don't even remember what they call that, fake Whopper that they have. And, it was going to taste like meat, but really it was plant-based or something. I'm not all about that. Obviously, I shouldn't be giving anybody any kind of eating things because obviously I don't eat well myself. But it does bother me, like my husband, both my sons, and myself all have one stomach issue or another. We've all got some kind of digestive issues. And then you wonder, and other people do too, but I know just of the four of us in our family, all have some kind of issue. Is it from the food we eat? Is it something, or, I know, like we've all heard, like Coca-Cola is not healthy for us to drink. Sugar is not healthy for us. There's a lot of those things, but what about these bioengineered fake, pretend meat and things like that? Are they, they're telling us they're safe at the time they're bringing them out, but are they really, or are they something that aren't safe? I've heard of people who have been eating chicken or ground beef and have found bits and pieces of plastic in it, or things that look like plastic. Or I've heard somebody that had made pasta and they didn't drain all the water off of it right away, and afterwards had like what appeared to be like little pieces of some kind of plastic matter type stuff in the water later on. And I have no proof of any of that. I'm just going by what other people have told me. But with this stuff coming out on the news now, and in news things, on Facebook and stuff, it does kind of make you wonder what exactly is in our foods. So kind of, especially since there are so many illnesses and, diseases that they don't know really what causes it. Cancer, they can't say indefinitely what causes forms of cancer. Crohn's disease, they say it's not really food related. They don't know really what causes it. There's just so many different things that, most people would be, well, I shouldn't say most people that would be concerned about that if they knew, hey, if you eat broccoli is the cause of, is linked to this disease. So if you're worried about getting this disease, avoid broccoli. Most people would have no problem avoiding eating broccoli. Or if you knew, hey, don't eat ground beef because it is linked to, this product, or, or this disease or stuff. Just like peanut allergies. People that have peanut allergies, they avoid eating peanuts. Or if you have an allergy to a certain food, generally you avoid consuming that food to avoid having the allergy symptoms. So, especially since, some people could die from their allergies, but this is just kind of like sneaking in, even as far as like the red dyes and stuff that we've all seen so many companies are pulling out of, Fruit Loops and, different things like that. Have those always been the red dyes? I mean, Fruit Loops been around since I was a child. And so, it's been around a hot minute. So it's like, has it always been, or have they over the years changed what the red dyes were? I am someone who has had stomach issues back as far as I can remember. As a kid, I missed so many days of school for stomach issues. Went to all kinds of, I shouldn't say all kinds of, I went to what they called a specialist, which I grew up in the Midwest, in the rural, where everybody went to a family doctor. That was it. You went to the doctor, we all went to the same doctor, whether you were 5 or 55. But I was actually referred to what I guess was considered a specialist, which now I'm thinking was just actually a pediatrician, because it was somebody that I could go to. I remember being able to go there till I was 18. So that just further conveys that it probably was a pediatrician. But they did all kinds of tests to find out what my stomach issue was. And, it was just, they tried elimination diets. I remember I was so upset because, we didn't have fast food in every town back in the day. And McDonald's was coming to my hometown. I was so excited. McDonald's was coming. And it was about that time the doctor said, okay, don't let her eat anything fried. Don't eat, anything like that. Well, McDonald's, everything was fried, especially back in the 70s, So I was bummed. It was like McDonald's was there a full, I think it was like 6 months before the doctor decided, okay, it's not that we're having issues with. So I was allowed to partake in the McDonald's, and I was just over the moon happy. And actually, back when I was little like that and having all the stomach issues, I was severely underweight. Looking at this, you would never guess that in a million years that I was ever underweight. But I was. And I always say now, it's like, yeah, that doctor told my mom, whatever you can get her to eat, feed it to her, because we need to get some weight on this girl. She is severely underweight. And then, look at me now. But we never did come to a conclusion to what caused my stomach issues. At some point, they just kind of, I guess, either went away or I just got so I tolerated. I don't know. But, periodically throughout my life, I would go through bouts where I would have these issues again. And it was in the last couple of years that I got thinking, when the gluten thing was, more prominent. And I thought, at one point they thought I was having like a reaction maybe to cooked cheese. Like I could eat like a cube of cheese cut up, and I could eat cheese that way, or raw cheese, I guess you would consider it. Back then, and I didn't have issues with it. But you put it on a grilled cheese and melt that down, or on pizza, melt it down, I'd have stomach issues. And so the doctor had mentioned back at the time that it was strange that I was having trouble with cheese melted, but not cheese, just chunks of cheese, because he had said a lot of people have problems in reverse, like more with that. Something about it changes the chemical composition of it or something. I don't know. I was a kid back then. I'm just going by what I remember my mom telling me about it. And within the last couple years, I thought, well, okay, what if the grilled cheese that was bothering me wasn't necessarily the cheese, but was a gluten intolerant to the bread? The macaroni and cheese that bothered me, which didn't have real cheese in it. Kraft is, I don't think it's ever been real cheese. It's always been that powdered stuff. And you mix in the milk and milk and butter. So what if it was the macaroni, not the cheese? And on the pizza, what if it was the crust, not the cheese? So, I don't know. And then that's when it kind of got me on the rabbit hole of the gluten intolerance thing. I have found out that I am also lactose intolerant, along with the gluten intolerance. So I do take, when I remember, I take that Lactaid tablet or pill, whatever, when I'm eating dairy to avoid having the stomach cramping and stuff. I don't know, maybe it's all linked together, maybe it's not. Is it something to do with the foods I've ate growing up? Because, we didn't eat out all the time growing up, and we didn't even have a lot of restaurants. My mom, my parents cooked our meals, whether it be soup or whatever. We ate homemade meals pretty much every day. Sundays, we might go to the city, which was like a 45-minute away. Not every Sunday, but occasionally on a Sunday, we'd go and we'd do some shopping, and, we'd go out to dinner. That was a big thing back then. And my husband's the same way. He came, from a larger family than I did, and his family couldn't afford to go out to dinner all the time. They ate home most of the time. It was like a rare treat for his family to go out to dinner. So, and he's had stomach issues most of his life. So, it just makes you wonder, why is our generation and all these other generations having the stomach issues that previous generations didn't? Now, my dad died from stomach cancer. And so obviously he did have stomach issues. It wasn't found, though, till he was like 78 years old. But the man was a fanatic about Kogel's hot dogs. That was like a big thing in Michigan, is their Kogel's, which Kogel's are supposed to be, from what I understand, it's supposed to be a cleaner hot dog than some of the other junk that hot dogs that are made. I don't know. I'm not really into the whole hot dog thing anymore, but I did grow up, we ate hot dogs. And my dad would have sold a kidney if it meant for him to get hot dogs. That man loved his hot dogs. And, we always had cold cuts in the house. That was economical. You'd make a sandwich, that was lunch, except for like in school. But, you could have a bologna sandwich or ham sandwich or whatever the case may be. So there was that kind of stuff, which, I've heard other people say is not good for you. Even in the carnivore scene, they say that kind of meat isn't necessarily all that great for you, but as it always, that's been a long time ago, and was bad back then too. So I don't know, just kind of some food for thought there. And I started pulling things out of my pantry yesterday after learning about the bioengineered food in our canned stuff, and I started looking, and so far those were the only 3 cans of stuff in my pantry that I found that had it in there. But I don't have a lot of that kind of stuff. We don't buy a lot of that stuff. So, but I've also heard chicken nuggets. Of course, I've heard that in the years past, that chicken nuggets really aren't meat, or at least some aren't. So I don't know. I'd be curious to see if you've found anything that has bioengineered food in it, drop me a comment in there because I'd be curious to see what else, kind of makes you afraid to eat. And it's like, I know if you're like me, you don't go through the grocery store looking at all the fine-tuned ingredients. Matter of fact, I don't even go in the grocery store most of the time. Most of the time, I order my stuff through the app and drive to the store and curbside pickup. I don't like going in stores, so in our stores here are insanely busy. I don't mind going in Aldi's here in town, but our Aldi's does not have self-checkouts. It's got usually one register open, and that's it all the time. And let me tell you, Aldi's here, we only have one between the two cities, and that baby is a happening place. But if I have to go into a store, I usually choose, unless I know it's something Aldi's won't be carrying, I prefer to go there just for the fact that I like Aldi's. So I like H-E-B, but H-E-B is crazy busy all the time too. In Walmart, I just don't care to shop at. Yeah, I do shop there from time to time, but I prefer not to shop there. I'd just soon give my money to, H-E-B or a local grocery store. So, but anyway, this video's gone on way longer than I had intended it to. So I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving Eve. Hope you got your turkey out and thawed, because if not, you're having something else for dinner tomorrow. So have a great rest of your day. And if I don't make a video tomorrow, I hope everyone has a fantastic Thanksgiving. And I'll talk again to you real soon here in the next one. Bye, everyone.